And we begin this Sunday morning with a look ahead to the high-stakes midterm elections and what one of the hottest and most closely watched races in the country is telling us today about the upcoming November races. A showdown is underway in California as Republicans Steve Hilton in the governor's race and Spencer Pratt in the LA mayoral race are trying to bust up the Democrats' grip on power in the Golden State while attracting major support from Democrats and independents throughout California. The latest polls show Steve Hilton emerging as a serious candidate for governor, while Spencer Pratt is a major factor in the LA race, as Californians focus on what matters to their lives and their families' lives: affordability, homelessness, crime, and one of the most destructive fires ever in the Pacific Palisades last year. It destroyed thousands of lives, destroying homes and structures, and it has yet to be resolved and rebuilt. Here's Spencer Pratt with me last month on Mornings with Maria on Fox Business.
I'm speaking to thousands of people a day reaching out to me, mothers who want to feel safe on the sidewalk with their kids and their strollers, mothers that want to go to the park that don't want to inhale fentanyl smoke from the 70,000 drug addicts that the mayor currently lets live on our streets. At the end of the day, people want the law enforced. We have plenty of laws that make all of these things illegal that our current mayor and the potential Democratic Socialist option would continue for 4 more years. And Angelenos are done.
And even though the California primaries were held 5 days ago on June 2nd, we still do not know what November's race will look like because of the way California counts mail-in ballots for days after Election Day. Both the governor's race and the mayor's race are close enough that millions of ballots are critical in deciding November's matchup. What we do know is former Biden HHS Secretary Xavier Becerra has advanced to secure a spot in the November contest, with a fight now underway for who his opponent will be between Republican Steve Hilton and climate change activist and Democrat billionaire Tom Steyer, as the count is apparently still underway. Joining me now with the very latest on the race and the months ahead is the gubernatorial candidate himself, Steve Hilton. Steve, great to see you. Congrats on all of this.
Thank you so much, Maria. Great to be with you.
So tell us how the process works. Are you saying that you still don't know who is in the race because they're still counting ballots?
Well, it'd be lovely if someone could explain how the process works, because to most people it seems completely insane. Yes, still counting ballots. There's 2 things going on here. You've got the late arriving mail ballots. You're allowed to vote by mail, and as long as you post it by Election Day, they count it up to 7 days after Election Day. That's next Tuesday, so that's one category. But the bigger category is the fact that you've got still millions of ballots in these vote centers that are sitting there right now in boxes not being counted because the people in charge have no energy, no pride in getting this done quickly. It's typical of California under Democrat rule. They can't build a bridge. They can't clear the homelessness. They can't run an election properly. Last week, I actually put forward a plan to try and accelerate this process by surging people to these vote centers to get a quick result. But look, the most important thing is that actually we're very confident now that we'll be in the top 2. There's not really any realistic possibility for the billionaire climate fanatic Tom Steyer to catch up. That means that in November, Californians will have a real choice. Another 4 years of this insanity that's given us the highest cost of living in the country and all the other problems we see, or a new direction towards common sense, lower taxes, cutting the bloat in our government. That's what I'm offering, and we're going to be able to present that choice to voters now in November. We're very confident of that.
And you've told me before, you've spoken with lots of people, families, business owners, and one of the issues here is the late votes statewide are including votes from some of those big counties where you've spoken with people like Orange County and San Diego County and Fresno County. What are you hearing from voters?
Above everything else is just the sheer struggle of living in California under these Democrat policies. The cost of living, the hassle, if you run a small business, just the endless bureaucracy, the fees, the permits, the hassle, the nonsense. On top of that, the energy costs, the highest gas prices in the country, electric bills that are more than double the national average. On and on it goes, because you've got, it's 16 years now. You've had Democrats running everything in California, all the statewide offices, the legislature with a 2/3 majority in both chambers, every big city, every big county, the state Supreme Court with a 6-1 majority. They've had 16 years to show that their ideas work, and the result is a disaster. And that's why people are leaving. Housing costs the highest in the country. It's the #1 reason people are leaving California. We all know what a beautiful, amazing state California is. You've got to work really hard to drive people out. But that's what they've been doing with these policies. That's why we need a change.
And the taxes are the highest in the country as well as the housing costs. Now, President Trump endorsed you, Steve. You have a relationship with the president. What kind of change could you affect if, in fact, you work with the federal government on certain policies?
Well, that's the central point. And so many people say to me here in California, oh, how are you going to win as a Republican? How are you going to win with President Trump's endorsement? It's the exact opposite. First of all, let's focus on a really important number. 56% in a poll just last week of Californians say that we need change. So there's clearly a majority who want to go in a new direction. When it comes to the president, he wants to do things in California that would help Californians. Let's start with the biggest and most obvious one, gas prices. Just yesterday in the Bay Area, gas prices, I saw $7.89. That is crippling for a regular family or someone who drives their truck to get to and from work. The president wants to help lower gas prices by opening up California oil and gas production. So do I. Gavin Newsom is blocking that. It's an example of how we can work together to deliver concrete positive results for Californians.
Yeah, and this is a key point because California has been hit the hardest in the entire country with regard to the price of gas and oil. And that's specific to the policies that California has undertaken with regard to drilling, with regard to doing, trading with Middle East to get their Mideast oil from the Strait of Hormuz. And that's very different than what you've seen in red states.
Exactly. It's at least $2, sometimes more. I mean, that price I saw yesterday, $7.89. That's way higher than the rest of the country. And I'll give you another example. The vice president who endorsed me as well on election day, which I was honored to have J.D. Vance's endorsement, his fraud task force looking for ways to cut the fraud in our bloated budgets in California. They've doubled the budget in the last 10 years. So much of it is fraud. The governor here and his team are fighting that, are resisting that. I'm going to work with the president and the vice president on the fraud task force to reduce the fraud so we can cut taxes. My tax plan starts with your first 100 grand tax-free to help working people in California. All these positive, practical things can happen if we have a governor that works with the federal government to make common sense change happen. Yeah,
well, it's interesting because you do a brushstroke look at California sometimes, and people just assume it's all Democrats and, liberal and in some cases extreme liberal policies. But, Spencer Pratt was with me recently, and he told me, look, who's backing me? Democrats and independents. So have you seen that as well, Stephen? What is your take on the L.A. race as well with Spencer Pratt?
Very much, and especially in LA, I have to say. I mean, we did an event the other week, I should say, in Los Angeles. We must have been about 200 people. Pretty much all of them were Democrats supporting my campaign. We're seeing it up and down the state because we've got to a point now where I would say it's a breaking point in California. We cannot go on like this. People understand that. Businesses are leaving, people are leaving. The situation is really dire. In terms of the LA mayor's race, I'm hoping so much. I supported Spencer from day one. I was with him when he announced his candidacy in the Palisades. We both spoke at that one-year anniversary event for the fires. I'm hoping so much he makes it because we've got to have change in Los Angeles. You've got a totally incompetent mayor, Karen Bass. You've got an extremist as the other choice, Nithya Raman. We've got the Olympics coming just in 2 years. We've got to really clean up LA and make sure we can show the world a fantastic city and state. And if we have the Democrats in charge that we've got now in Los Angeles, that's a disaster. We've got to have change in Los Angeles too.
Steve, we'll be watching and we'll be checking with you along the way. Thanks so much.
Great to be with you, Maria. Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.